نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي واجعل لي وزيرا من أهلي ربي يسر ولا تؤثر وتمم بالخير وبك نستعين يا فتاح ربي زدني علما ربي هب لي حكما وألحقني بالصالحين ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربي أوزعني أن أشكر نعمتك التي أنعمت علي وعلى والدي وأن أعمل صالحا ترضاه وأصلح لي في ذريتي إني تبت إليك وإني من المسلمين يا أول الأولين يا آخر الآخرين يا ذا القوة المتين يا راحم المساكين يا أرحم الراحمين حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل اللهم إنا نجعلك في نحورهم ونعوذ بك من شرورهم اللهم منزل الكتاب سريع الحساب اهزم الأحزاب اللهم اهزمهم وزلزلهم اللهم آت نفسي تقواها وزكها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها ومولاها آمين يا أرحم الراحمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh once again. Alhamdulillah, by the grace and tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, today we are going to talk about ayah number 179 and 180 from Surah Al Imran, and we will go over the recitation and the meaning first.
ما كان الله ليذر المؤمنين على ما أنتم عليه حتى يميز الخبيث من الطيب وما كان الله ليطلعكم على الغيب ولكن الله يجتبي من رسله من يشاء فآمنوا بالله ورسله وإن تؤمنوا وتتقوا فلكم أجر عظيم.
So in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ma kana. It is not for basically Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, liyadara, that he leaves or to leave, al-mu'minina, the believers, ala, on, ma, what, antum, you are alayhi, in it. Like it is not upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to leave the believers in whatever state they are in the state that they are in, hatta, until, yamiza, he separates, al-khabitha min at-tayyib, al-khabitha, the evil, min at-tayyib, min, from, tayyib, the good. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not just leave the believers in whatever state they are in until he separates the evil from the good. وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ, and it is not for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, لِيُطْلِعَكُمْ, that he informs you, gives you itala, like he informs you, ala al-ghaibi, of the unseen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to inform you of the unseen. وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yajtabi, he chooses, mir rusulihi, from his messengers, man yasha, whoever he wills or whoever he wants, he chooses. فَآمِنُوا, so believe, billahi, in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wa rusulihi, and in his messengers. Rasul is singular, rusul is plural, right? So his messengers. Wa in, and if, tu'minu, you believe, wa tattaqu, and if you have taqwa, if you fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you have the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, falakum, then for all of you is ajrun azim, is a great reward. So in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, Allah is not going to leave the believers in the state you are in unless he separates the impure from the pure. Allah is not to inform you of the unseen, but Allah selects from his messengers whom he wills. So believe in Allah and his messengers. If you believe and fear Allah, you will deserve a great reward. We will talk about the context and everything about this ayah in a little bit, inshallah. And ayah number 180. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
ولا يحسبن الذين يبخلون بما آتاهم الله من فضله هو خيرا لهم بل هو شر لهم سيطوقون ما بخلوا به يوم القيامة ولله ميراث السماوات والأرض والله بما تعملون خبير.
Wala, and not, or let not, yahsabanna, hasaba, to think or to assume. So, and let not assume, and who should not assume? Alladhina yabkhaluna, those who withhold. And what do they withhold? Bima atahumullah, from what Allah has given them. So those who withhold from what Allah has given them, they should not, and what Allah has given them, min fadlihi, of His bounty. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given from His bounty some things to some people, and those people, they should not think that what they withhold, or what they withhold from the bounty that Allah has given them, huwa khairul lahum, that it is good for them, that this withholding of the bounty of Allah, that being miserly in that, not sharing in it, not following the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is good for them. Don't let them think, never should. And yahsabanna, grammatically speaking, it has a lot of emphasis. The noon with the shadda at the end, it adds a lot of emphasis to it in this case. Right? It's yahsabanna, they should never think, never let them this thought even come into their mind that what they're withholding about the bounty that Allah has given them, what they're withholding from them, what are they being miserly about it and not sharing it with others and everything. Don't let them think even for a moment that it is good for them. Bal huwa sharrul lahum. No, but rather it is huwa, it is sharrul lahum. It is bad for them. Sayutawwiquna, their necks will be encircled. Tawq is like we can imagine like in olden times, if we kind of imagine like the prisoners at a very old in the old time, they would have like this iron collar around their neck, like they would put these for the person in chains, and they would have this huge heavy collar on the neck, and that is called a tawq, right? So their necks will be encircled, ma bakhilu, from what they withheld, bihi, with it, right? So their necks will have these iron collars of these things that they're withholding, yawmal qiyamah, on the day of resurrection, on the day of judgment, right? The things that they were supposed to spend, they were the things that were supposed to give, and but they did not give, and they held on to it, they will become these huge like collars, like these on their around their necks. Their necks will be tied up with that. Walillahi, and for Allah is mirathu. Mirath is a heritage, like mirath is like like a wasiya, like when somebody passes away and they leave something and it goes to somebody else, so it becomes a heritage for somebody, it goes to somebody else. So for Allah is the mirath of samawati wal ard, of the heavens and the earth, meaning everything and everybody in the heavens and the earth will eventually die, and they will leave things to somebody else, to somebody else, to somebody else. Eventually everything is going to Allah, every single thing is going back to Allah. Wallahu, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, bima ta'amaluna, of what you do. Amal is something, amal is an action as well, and fi'al is an action as well, but amal is an action that we do intentionally. Fi'al is something that includes everything, all kinds of action, both voluntary and involuntary. Like for example, if I get up and make a tea for myself, that's a voluntary action. I chose to get up and make a tea for myself and have it. But my breathing, I'm not even thinking of my breathing, and I'm just breathing normally every time. That's involuntary, it just happens. Unless I'm like sitting and doing like deep breathing exercises or something like that. So then it becomes specifically kind of an amal. But amal, so ta'amaluna, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows whatever uh, of whatever we are doing intentionally and everything, whatever we are putting our effort into. Khabir, He is all knowing of that. So in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us those who withhold in miserliness what Allah has given them out of His grace should not take this withholding as good for them. Instead, it is bad for them. They shall be forced on the doomsday to put what they have withheld as iron collars around their necks. To Allah belongs the inheritance of the heavens and the earth. Allah is all aware of what you do. Right? So, inshallah, we'll talk about it in more details. These two ayat, like one thing that we should see about these ayat is sometimes in the Quran we will see that there are some ayat that we will find that there is one sentence. If we just look at the translation, it seems like there's one sentence, but it is broken up into different ayat. And then we're like, okay, why is it broken up like that? So, like, for example, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Right? It seems like when we read the Surah Fatiha, it seems like it's a whole translation running where it's just one sentence, but it's all broken up into different ayat. And sometimes, like in this ayah, we will see in the ayah 117, we see like it seems like it's multiple sentences, but they come together in one ayah. So sometimes when we look at just the translation in the beginning, we are like, why is it like this? Sometimes in the Quran, we see one sentence, but because the ayat are the division that is made by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is divide. This is the divine division. Right? Me and you, no person has divided these ayat. The ayat have been divided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And so, but if we look at the human logic, human way of doing things, it's like, okay, sometimes these are two, three sentences in one ayah. Sometimes it's not even one whole sentence in an ayah. Sometimes one part, two words, and then the next two words in the next ayah, the next two, and then like four, five ayat go on, and then one whole sentence is made, right? So what's the reason behind it? One thing is that the scholars have noted, again, the complete wisdom is only with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but some things that some scholars have taken is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to take the lessons together. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to ponder over that part in as a one unit and find out like what's he wants us to think about it like this, right? So even when it is a small ayah, there is a lot of lessons in it. When it's a big ayah, there are a lot of lessons in it which are connected. So we find out a lot from it, alhamdulillah. So just a side point, but I just wanted to just mention that. So in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, and the context of this ayah is, again, we know that the Battle of Uhud, all that commentary is now wrapping up. It's now with this ayah, we're completing like this whole incident of Uhud that happened and all the lessons from it and everything. And in this ayah, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, before this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was telling us that, like people who think that they have all the wealth and everything, and whatever else, that they're running after the wealth, and people were like chasing wealth and this dunya, but it was not good for them, right? But now we are also learning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also teaching us that what about the believers then? The believers who were going through so much hardship, so much things that they went through, and sometimes they were like, we are on Iman. We are believers on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why are we going through these hardships? Why are we going through the servicing? Or like, let's see, we see somebody else who is a strong believer, who is a good person, who believes in Allah, yet they're going through so much hardship. Then, yeah, and the question comes in our mind, like, why is this going on? Why are the good people having to suffer so much? Why are they going through so many hardships and everything, right? So in the earlier ayah, he had told us that don't think that if disbelievers have a lot of wealth, that Allah is happy with them. Don't think that just because they have ease or power or wealth, seemingly they have everything good, that Allah Ta'ala is happy with them. Right? Now here it's the opposite. That don't think that if the hardships are on the believers, right? Don't don't fall into this misunderstanding that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is unhappy with them, right? Because sometimes they're like, okay, if it's very easy to think that, okay, if I'm having these hardships, maybe like a lot of sickness for myself or my family members, or if, let's say, there are financial difficulties, or if, let's say, there are relationship difficulties, or something else comes up, like in job, in education, in something, and or some other harm comes through any other things. Sometimes a person might think like, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala happy with me? Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upset with me? Why am I going through these things, right? So when somebody is upon the deen of Allah and still the hardships come upon them, right? Then there are different perspectives, different things to be looked at, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us that look at it from this side, right? And so in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that in His eyes, in His, He is looking at when the situation comes, when the situations present, then who is going to react with what? Right? And some situations will shake us inside. Some situations will sometimes we say that I love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I believe in Him and everything, but some situations will shake us. And then what are we going to say at that time? What are we going to do at that time? Right? Are we going to lose hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Are we going to stay grateful believers? What are we going to do? Are we going to pray more, or are we going to stop praying at all? Right? So in the Battle of Uhud, the situation that happened in the Battle of Uhud, yeah, it was just a few hours, like one day, right? And a few hours. But in that one day, it became clear who is munafiq, meaning who is a hypocrite, who is a true believer, who is very, very strong on Iman, who is like firm no matter what happens, and who is a believer. Who are the people who are believers, but they are weak in the Iman in the sense that when they see wealth and when they see something, they get attracted by it. Or who are the some of the believers who are also they're good believers and everything, but when a lot of chaos happens, they lose like their sense of purpose for that. They forget, and there's like there's weakness that takes over them when they see a lot of chaos around them, and they start running here and there, and they feel a bit lost, and they don't know what to do and everything. While some believers are so strong that they stay firm even at the time of chaos, even when everybody else is running. In the Battle of Uhud, what happened? Some people were firm. Some people stayed with the Prophet ﷺ even when all the chaos was happening, and they were defending him with their own bodies at times. The arrows would come, and they would put their own body in front and defend the Prophet ﷺ and make sure to take care of his safety and everything, and to um, to stand firm in the battle and everything. But some started running when a lot of chaos happened. Some on the top of mountain came down to look for the war booty. But these are all believers, though. Right? The strong, not so strong, weak, not so weak. But there were also munafiqeen. There was also hypocrites who left on the way of the battlefield. They started from Medina, they went halfway, and then they left. It's like, no, this is a suicide mission. We are not going on this thing. And then they are making fun of, and they are making, after the battle has happened, there's been a lot of casualties. There has been a lot of mutilating of bodies, and a lot of harm, a lot of sadness, a lot of grief is going around, and a lot of things are happening. And these people are making sarcastic comments. They're making fun. They're saying this prophet is not, Audhu Billah, that he's not equipped to take on the leadership role. Look how much losses he brought and everything. And they're saying things, and they're saying, if you had listened to us, it would have all been okay. They're saying all these things, right? And they're trying to create fitna um, amongst the people, right? So, but through all of this, when we look at it, when we take a step back and look at all of this, what happened in just that one day? Right? In just that one day, from what before this one day, before the Battle of Uhud, let's say 2 days back, 2 days before the Battle of Uhud, the whole group of people looked the same. They were all praying together. They were all talking to each other as believers. They were maybe having discussions about the deen. They were maybe doing dhikr together. They were maybe listening to the Prophet ﷺ teach the Quran together. Maybe they were like visiting each other and having meals together. They were doing all these things together, right? But just in a few hours, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala separated. It was hard. That day was hard. It was very hard. There was almost every family had some casualties, some multiple casualties, and the bodies of the believers were cut and mutilated. Right? We know that Hind, A'udhu Billah, she cut open the body of Hamza, the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, after he was assassinated, and then she tried to chew on his liver. She opened his stomach and chew on his liver raw and everything, but she couldn't do it, so she spit it out. Right? A'udhu Billah. But and they cut the fingers, and there was a lot that was there. It was hurtful, right? It was hurtful. A lot of things that happened. But through so much fitna, right? Through so much fitna, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, nothing happens without the permission. Although it is very painful, but nothing happens without the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And this caused this fitna separated the group of Muslims into various things, right? And so that has happened. And the lessons in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses different things in the Quran to teach us the lessons. Sometimes it's the history, like this Battle of Uhud. Sometimes it's the science in the universe. Sometimes it's different other things that our own human experiences, different things. But the purpose is the lesson, right? The purpose is the lesson, and the lesson is for all of us, for our own lives as well, and our own times as well. Quran is a book, for it's the word of Allah that is applicable until the day of judgment. It was applicable when it was revealed. It is applicable today, and it will be applicable. And that's the miracle of the Quran, that it will give us guidance in every situation that we are in, no matter what time or age we live in, no matter what age we ourselves are, or what gender, what situation we are going through. We will find guidance in it. That's the miracle of the Quran, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will cause the group of Muslims to pass through various trials so that the character of the true believers and the hypocrites can be known. right? They say that in Urdu they say "doodh ka doodh, pani ka pani," meaning like if somebody has mixed up some water with the milk, it kind of separates the. Usually, it's not possible to separate the milk from the water if somebody's mixed water in the milk, but this is like separating the milk from the water. The both become separate. Both become it becomes clear who is what, right? And if we look today, sometimes some people say, but the trials of today that the Muslims are facing today, um, why is the Uhud of today so long? Why is the thing going on and on and on? Why are the trials upon the Muslims, upon the believers today, going on and on and on and on, right? And some scholars have remarked because there's so many believers, and we are being sorted. Who is a true Muslim? Who is a munafiq? Who is has iman, but they have weak iman. The khabis and the tayyib, they are being separated. The evil and the good, they are being separated. The truthful and the liars are being separated. Those who will run away and those who will stay firm are being separated. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will separate these, and He will not leave any excuse for the day of judgment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows already what is in the hearts of everyone. But through these circumstances, He makes it clear. He makes it clear even to the person themselves and to others around. He makes it clear who is what is the situation with what, with whom, right? So nifaq, what is nifaq basically? What is hypocrisy? Hypocrisy, we cannot find out about hypocrisy of a person or of our own selves, for example, through whether we are fasting or not, whether we are praying our salah or not, whether we go for hajj or umrah, or whether we are sitting and doing dhikr. That, yes, it has its own challenges, but that a lot of people can do. The true the true test comes through the azmaish, the tests when they come, the tests when they come in this life, when the time comes to sacrifice something. Okay, what will be most pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this situation? Whatever situation I am in, what would be the most pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And what will I do that? Will I do that? Or okay, what would be permissible for me to do in the eyes of Allah? Will I if I can't do the best, will I at least do that? Or if I know something will not be pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but I feel pulled towards it, will I try to stop myself from it? Will I make an effort to pull myself? No, although yes, I feel like doing this, but I know this is something that is not liked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I'll protect myself from it. Right. And the one who will put their deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala above their own being, above their own individual needs and desires and feelings and emotions and everything, right? When they put, um, that the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His deen becomes more dearer to them, that shows the firmness, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will check all of us. He will not just leave all of us like this. We'll be tested and it'll become clear in different through different situations, right? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيُطْلِعَكُمْ عَلَى الْغَيْبِ. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have now, if you look at the situation of Uhud, like before, without the Uhud, let's say all this hardship, all this pain, all this suffering, uh, it had not taken place. And why didn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just disclose the name? He knew already who was Munafiq and everything. Why didn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just disclose the names of the people who were hypocrites and just tell them to the Prophet ﷺ and the believers, and okay, they can just like take care of themselves? Why did all this thing has to happen, right? The thing is, it could have been real, but no, this is not the way that things happen. This is not the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does things, right? He will not disclose to you and me the secrets of people's hearts, because those are the matters of unseen. None of us will know, uh, none of us can know what is going on in the hearts of some other people around us. That is something for only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to know. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show us whether they are Muslims or hypocrites and everything, because He will create certain situations and the realities will come out in the open. Right. And then we obviously we ask Allah Ta'ala for wisdom to be able to see that. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to learn different things and everything, right? So this whole society, for example, if we have amongst us even today, we'll have some raw and immature people, some good and some not so good people, some sincere believers, some hypocrites. And this situation of everybody being together cannot continue. It's against the divine wisdom. There will be some separation, there will be some fitna, there will be some things that happen, and then because if let's say the names were revealed, what would have happened if, just like, okay, these 30 people, these 50 people, this 100 people, let's, among you, these are the names of this is the list, and it was, let's say, given to the Prophet ﷺ and the believers, that okay, this is what it is exactly, right at the beginning, before Uhud happened, before anything happened, before people even knew there's something as hypocrisy. Because before Uhud, everybody thought that okay, whoever says salam, who's a believer, they're believers. Everybody believed everybody was believers, right? Now, if the list was revealed at that time, that okay, everybody's behaving the same way, if a list is revealed, these people are hypocrites. Now, what would those people have done? Those people would have said, no, of course not. They would have outrightly denied. What do you mean by saying this? How could you say this about it? They would have created a whole propaganda saying, like, how could you say we are not believers? We are, although they knew they were not, but they would have like made the whole thing about it. How could you say that? We do the same things as you do and everything. How could you even say that, right? Also, if we knew, okay, these people are not to be in today's life as well, if we know that okay, we have, let's say, 10 colleagues at work, and we know these two are not to be trusted, then where is the difficulty in dealing with people? The difficulty in dealing with people is when we don't know who's the truthful, who's not, and then we have to observe and we have to live this life with hoping and believing the best in everybody, but yet protecting ourselves at the same time. And then when anybody shows us the signs that they are not trustworthy, or they like they stab us in the back, or they do something harmful or something, then we take measures to protect ourselves. We don't fall into, the Prophet ﷺ told us that a believer does not fall into the same hole twice, right? A believer does not fall, because we believe the best of everybody. But if somebody cheats us, we don't put ourselves in harm's way first. But if something happens and we are harmed, while we were having best, like expectations of everybody and everything, and even when we were doing our due diligence, yet we were harmed by somebody, then we don't fall into the same hole again. Then we know, we learn our lessons. Like there is a there's a saying that when people show you, I think it's by Maya Angelou. It says, when people show you who they are, believe them. Believe them. Like sometimes a lot of people who are in abusive relationships, for example, what happens is like their partner, or their husband or their wife, or their, maybe it's their sibling, or maybe it's their work colleague or somebody, they they do something, or they show them a very nasty side of them, and yet you're like, how can people be like this? No, 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 people can't be like this. Oh no, I must be misunderstanding and everything. Like we keep making excuses for the other person, and they keep getting worse and worse and worse, right? And we keep making excuses. No, 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 I must be mistaken. No, 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 the person cannot be like that. But when people are showing us who they are, then believe them. It's not that we go out and we start saying things. No, but we protect ourselves, right? We don't need to, just because we understood something, that somebody has nasty intentions or somebody's trying to harm us, doesn't mean that we have to go out and harm them back, or we have to do anything. No, every situation is different. Everything is different. If need be, a legal thing is needed, then that's a different case. But we protect ourselves, right? So so the names were basically not taught. Like, there's a reason, there's a wisdom in how we deal with people as well. That's our test as well. How do we deal with different people? Some of them are trustworthy, some of them are not.